Hello, I'm Jarton, and today I'm talking about noise. I like a bit of noise, I do. Now, to show you what I'm talking about, if you're not familiar with this stuff, I've got an analog synthesizer here. This is the Moog Voyager, and most of the sounds that come off this machine come from an oscillator. An oscillator gives a nice, clean waveform, which is perfect for making musical notes. It just works at one frequency, so that frequency is the note that you hear. But have a look. This is a sort of mixer section, and if you look here, I'm going to click that oscillator off, and then there, that is a noise generator. I'm going to click that on, and let's see what we get. There, love it. The oscillator gave a nice, clean, regular waveform. What the noise gives you is a completely random waveform, and here's something strange. See, it doesn't matter which note I play, they all sound exactly the same. The reason is there's no single frequency which defines the note. In fact, this sound is known as white noise. The reason we call it white noise is a bit like white light. White light is all the colours of the rainbow combined, all the different frequencies of light combined. Okay, white noise is all the different musical frequencies combined. It's like all the oscillators in the world think was, it's like having a million people talking to you on the phone all at the same time. You can't hear a single voice, you just hear a massive noise. Noise is musical dirt. That's why I love it. So we've got this rather strange sound. What can we do with it? Well, the simplest thing is you just chop it a bit. Get a sort of drum sound, although to be honest it's actually more fun banging a drum, but that's just me. Or you could maybe do this. It's the old steam train starting up. Yeah, you don't remember steam trains, will you? But at the moment I'm only playing with the volume. The real fun starts when you start messing around with the filters. Now to do this I need more hands. I've only got the two. And so I'm going to hold a note on. This machine's actually got a switch you can click. But I don't know, I prefer to do it with a playing card. All you do is... We'll try that again. There we go. This is the filter on the synth, and it's a low pass filter. So when I turn down the cutoff frequency, it takes away the higher frequencies in the noise and, oh, listen, and just leaves the lower frequencies. Oh, that's tasty. Then once we've done that, we turn up the resonance. Oh, sorry, did you hear that? Oh, I love that. I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, back to the well done, Queen. By the way, the reason I use a playing card is I could put on this little lock switch. That holds the note on. That would hold the note on. But when I look at the keyboard, I can't tell which note it's holding. That's why I tend to use a playing card. And you can tell which note you're holding down. There you are, Queen of Clubs. Right, so what's happening there is that the filter is just selecting one or two frequencies from the noise and boosting them, and it's a very tight band of frequencies, and it's so tight it sounds like a musical note. Well, it is a musical note actually, but it's a very special, breathy sort of sound. It's really special. I really, really like that. I think that's great. To compare it with the oscillator, let me just do that and do that. Nice mellow oscillator, but the noise really has got something going for it. Loving that. Okay, so that's what you can do with noise on this machine. But there's something that I really like doing with noise, and that is making wind noises. I've got to be careful here. When you get to my age, sometimes you can't help making wind noises. But no, I like to take noise, the random sound, and randomize it even further. And I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay, let's get started. I'm not going to use the big synthesizer. I'm just going to use these two boxes. And if you have a look, that one is a filter. Yeah. And it's got lots of sockets in the back. And you can use these sockets to make the filter do fancy things, as you're going to find out. And then the other one, you stay there just for a minute. And then the other one is a CP251. This is a voltage control processor. This doesn't actually process any sounds. It makes control voltages. Lots of sockets there. We're going to be using nearly all of these by the time we're finished. But most importantly, it's got one little socket. Can you see that one? It says noise. It's got its own noise source. So I'm going to take the noise from here and not from the big old keyboard over there. So those two go there. And to start off with, rather boringly, I'm just going to use two white wires. But there is a logic to this. Follow me. Right, we start by putting one of these white wires into the noise output onto this machine. Now, I could put the noise straight into the filter, but it comes really loudly out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it through this section. See there, it says attenuator. This is like a volume control, so I've put that in there, input. Then that is output. Then this wire goes into the input in the filter. Bang. Oh, can you hear it already? It's coming out. I can make it louder, turn it down a bit. The reason I use white wires is that these are signal wires. The actual sound is travelling down there. It just helps you keep track of what's going on when things get a bit busier in a minute. Okay, that's a filter. It does exactly the same job as the one we saw on the synthesizer. Turn it down, turn it up, it's got resonance. This filter's also got this rather nice little switch here, 2-pole and 4-pole. 4-pole gives a thicker, warmer sound. Trouble is when you're trying to make a good, moorland wind effect, start to sound a bit like a wah-wah pedal if you're not careful. Like to try and avoid that. I like the 2-pole on this because it's nice and bright and fresh. So that's the 2-pole filter. This machine has also got an envelope follower. What happens here is that it depends on the volume of the signal coming into the pedal. If the volume's low, this gives a low voltage. If the volume goes louder, it gives a higher voltage. But the noise volume keeps hovering up and down very, very quickly. Then I can put the voltage to control the cutoff. Listen. Hear that lovely squall effect? It's really, really coming to life now. Turn up the resonance. So what's happening is the filter is opening and closing along with the actual volume of the noise, which of course is completely random. Love that sound. Right. Before things get confusing, I'll turn that down. We're going to use that later. But now we're going to see if we can get something sounding more like a gusting wind. I could just sit here going like that. But that's a bit tedious. What I'm going to use is the LFO, low frequency oscillator, in this machine. Now, can you see the little light there? It's slowly coming on and off. That is showing the speed of the low frequency oscillator. That's it sped up. That's the output. That's the smooth output. So I'm going to put a wire. Hey, blue wire. Look, I'm using a coloured wire. It's getting exciting now, isn't it? Then on the back here, there's a little socket. Maybe you can't read what it says, but that says cutoff. This is now controlling the cutoff, okay? So as that oscillator goes up and down, so there's a cutoff frequency. So we're starting to get some sort of wind effect. I'll bring a bit of this effect in as well. What we really need is for the speed to vary. In fact, for that whole control voltage to vary randomly. Well, there's a way of doing that using this machine, but the way I'm going to explain it uses another machine. Bear with me. This little box of unlimited happiness is my Korg MS-20. It does all sorts of little tricks, but the best thing about it, it's got a patch board here. Every little bit of circuitry inside this machine is represented on a diagram showing how it links up. But you can switch them about by putting jack wires in between these various sockets. There's a lot of fun to be had. But just for now, let's have a look at two of these circuits. Here's the first thing we're looking for. It's the noise generator, and you'll see there it's got two sockets actually. It's got one that gives white noise, and that one gives pink noise. How exciting. See if you can spot the difference. Yeah, that's white noise. We're used to that. But now listen to pink. Isn't that gorgeous? You'll be reading a caption now saying about octaves and stuff like that. If you don't understand it, don't panic. Neither do I. Right, we're not going to use these actually as sound sources. We're going to use the white noise actually as a control voltage. And so we're going to put the white noise into this thing, sample and hold. This has got an input, an output, and it's got a clock. Okay, now for a little bit of magic. There, woo! We have our wires in. So the white noise is connected to the input of the sample and hold. The output from the sample and hold is going to the frequency control for the oscillators. If I push a note down, listen. That is the oscillator, but it's being modulated by the white noise. If I pull that out, nice straight tone, but if I put this in, you can't actually hear the noise. What you can do is hear the noise controlling the frequency of the oscillator. So it's moving up and down very quickly, very randomly. Okay, sample and hold, the clock input. Let's put that wire in there. What the clock does is effectively it takes a snapshot, it takes a snapshot or a sample of what's going in. So obviously the noise is a random waveform. If we take a snapshot, we have no idea whether it's going to be a high voltage or a low voltage. And the way this machine works is that if I connect the tip of this jack plug to 0 volts, in other words, I touch it anywhere on the case, it will take a snap. So let's just play a note. In fact, you know what we'll do? We'll get the Queen of Clubs on board. There she goes. Hey, she's about to hold down a note for us. In you go. Okay, if I touch the case, watch what happens. Every time I touch the case, a different voltage ends up going through this red wire, and I get a different pitch. Now you feel a bit daft just prodding the case of your synthesizer with a jack plug, although many people have done it. Luckily, there's a thing on here that will help me do it automatically. That's the modulation generator. I don't know if you can read that. If I put that in there, the modulation generator, this is the control for it, is actually putting 0 volt pulses down the green wire. Slow it down. And every time it does it, I get a completely different random voltage going up this red wire. That's how we use noise and the sample and hold to make random control voltages. Right, let's go back to making that wind noise. And the good news is this machine also has its own sample and hold circuit. You'll see it's got an input, it's got 2 outputs that are slightly different. You'll see the difference in a second. And trigger here on the Moog is the same as clock on the Korg, does the same job. Now on this machine, noise is connected directly to the input and the LFO is connected directly to the trigger. But how can we find out what's coming out of here? I've got a secret weapon. I call it a sniffer cable, but it's just connected to the voltage control of the oscillator on the Moog. So I'll just get the old Queen of Clubs to do her little job and hold the note down for me. Thank you, my lovely. Right then, I'm going to put this in here. Whoop, and you hear that jumping up and down? That shows we've got a random voltage coming out of output 1. I can change the frequency if I want. There we are. We'll slow it down. So that's a random voltage coming out of this green wire. The trouble is it's stepping up and down, it's jumping, it's a bit abrupt. So what I'm going to use is output 2. Listen to this. This is a smoothed output, okay? Gives a much nicer change to the voltages and it gives a much better shape, much better contour for driving the filters to make the wind noise. I'm liking this. What I've done, I've connected the random voltage, the smooth voltage, into the filter, and so I'm getting these really, really natural wind effects moving now. And what makes it even better is if I add in a little bit of the envelope shaper as well. So I get that little squally effect coming in too. Ah, superb. The thing is, once you've listened to this for 2 or 3 hours, and I do, I start to hear a pattern in it. The problem is, the low frequency oscillator is always changing the voltage at the same speed. I know it's a random voltage, but I start to detect in my head, oh, it's changed again, it's changed again. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to change the speed of the low frequency oscillator randomly. Right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this output here, the other sample hold output, and then I can put it into there. That is a control input for the speed of the low frequency oscillator. So if I put that in there, the low frequency oscillator, its speed is being controlled by the sample hold output, which is being powered by the low frequency oscillator. It's randomizing itself. And what we can do is hear what is happening with this voltage. I'll just turn that right down for a second. Using the sniffer, put this on. Where are we? There she goes. There we go. That's the low frequency oscillator, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. That's lovely. That's enough of that. Out you come. You go there. And we now put that into there, turn that up and see what we get. So this thing's being pretty erratic and random now, but at the moment it's just using the same voice. Now a normal wind would sometimes whistle, sometimes it would just rush at you like a deep breath, and I can do this on the filter using the resonance. So if I turn the resonance up, is it going to do anything? Ooh, can you hear that? Or I can turn the resonance down. That gives you more of the rush sound. Of course, it's more fun to control the resonance using a random voltage. And for this, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to get a random voltage from my old Moog. Just to show you where this voltage is coming from, there's the Moog. This box at the back gives me access to all the voltages inside the Moog. And the Moog's got a sample and hold, noise, LFO, everything it needs to make this random voltage, which comes out of here where it says smooth. It's going around the yellow wire there. Into an attenuator, you got that, yeah? By the way, before I touch this, I should be wearing rubber gloves. Look at it, isn't it a mess? And then it comes down the blue wire, which I got for Christmas, woo-hoo-hoo, all the way along to there. And it goes into this, four-way multiple. That means I can use the control voltage down here in more than one thing. But the red wire is now taking it out, and it goes into the back of the filter, into the socket, which controls the resonance. First thing I'll just quickly do is check the random voltage coming out of the Moog. Yeah, you can hear it going up and down randomly, quite slowly. But that's perfect for controlling the resonance, so we'll take you out of there. Okay, so that voltage is going down the red wire, controlling the resonance here. So when I turn this up, occasionally it should whistle. When the resonance, there we go. When the resonance gets high enough, it whistles. It's called self-oscillating. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah, perfect. Doing exactly what I want. Turn that down, and now we'll turn the noise up and see what we get. Ooh, too much. There, perfect. Sometimes it's hissing, sometimes it whistles. It's giving that a real big variety of tone now. Well, I can't quite leave it there. Forgive me, I've got to do this. There you are. All I've done is, rather than control the cut-off of the filter from the sample hold, what I've done is I'm actually taking the cut-off from a little lag generator here that just smooths out the bumps. Then the lag generator takes its output from a little four-way mixer. And going into the mixer is the sample and hold. Also a little bit of the original LFO from this machine. Woo! That's a good one. And also just a little bit of the random stuff coming in from the Moog. Why not? Well, it's gone a bit mad. That's the whole thing about it. It's random. I think that's about as good a one. I'll tell you why I'm laughing. I've turned the noise down, but I forget that the resonance, if it's really, really high, will still whistle at me. In fact, sometimes, say I'm on the phone, I'm doing all this stuff, I turn the noise down to answer the phone, and maybe it's quiet for 10 minutes, then suddenly from across the room, I get wolf whistled by this machine, and it kind of speaks me, actually. Thing is, all the wild noise and that, I could take it a lot further, but I've left it there. I've got a new project now. Oh boy, I went on my holidays last year to a brilliant place. It's Deal down in Kent. And there in Deal, there's so much good stuff, but it has the best noise ever. Watch this. Isn't that fantastic? Unfortunately, there's a lot of wind buffeting, but the sound of that tide on the shingle beach is just, gets right under my skin. I get goose pimples thinking about it. So I've been trying to recreate that. It's going to take a whole lot more gear than this. That's actually my next project, might even be on my next video. But in the meantime, thanks so much for joining me. If you're a regular person who sent messages and stuff, I read and I love everyone. Thank you very much. So from me, I'm the Queen of Clubs and the piranha fish, if you spotted it earlier. Goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.